The coffee had gone cold in my hands by the time she finally sat down across from me. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 9, and I thought I knew every expression that could cross her face. But the look she wore that evening, guilt mixed with defiance, fear tangled with something that looked almost like relief, that was new. "I need to tell you something," she began, and I already knew. Perhaps I'd known for weeks, watching her fingers dance across her phone screen with unusual urgency, noticing how she'd started wearing makeup to run simple errands, observing the way she'd become distant even when we were in the same room. "I've been talking to him again," she said, unable to meet my eyes. "My ex." It started innocently, just a message on social media, but the but hung in the air like a blade waiting to drop. I set down my mug carefully, watching a dark ring of coffee stains spread across the white napkin beneath it. "Funny how you notice such small details when your world is crumbling. But we've reconnected," she continued, her voice gaining strength as if she'd been rehearsing this. "And I realize now that I never got proper closure with him. I think I need to explore whether there's still something there." I waited for the anger to come, for the rage that I'd seen consume other men in similar situations. Instead, I felt a strange numbness spreading through my chest, as if someone had injected Novocaine directly into my heart. "He's been different lately," she explained, as if that justified anything. "More mature. He says he's changed, that he's ready for commitment now. That he realized what he lost." What she didn't say, but what I already knew from the stories she'd told me over the years, was that he'd never held a steady job, that he'd cheated on her repeatedly, that he'd borrowed money from her and never paid it back. That she'd cried for months after their breakup, swearing she'd never let someone treat her that way again. And yet here we were. "So you want a divorce?" I asked quietly. "I think I need space to figure out what I want. Maybe a separation first." I looked at her then, really looked at her, and saw a stranger wearing my wife's face. This woman who I'd supported through her graduate degree, who I'd held during her father's funeral, who I'd built a life with, she was choosing chaos over our carefully constructed peace. She was choosing a man who'd repeatedly proven his unreliability over a husband who'd shown up every single day. "You don't need a separation to figure out what you want," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You've already decided. You're just hoping I'll wait around as your backup plan." Her face flushed. "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that. You want to run back to the excitement, the drama, the uncertainty. And you want me here, steadily paying the mortgage on this house, maintaining the life we built, just in case it doesn't work out with him." "You're being unfair," she protested. "Am I?" I stood up, suddenly needing distance from her, from this conversation, from the death of everything I'd thought we had. "If you want to leave, then leave. But don't ask me to participate in this fantasy where I'm supposed to understand and wait patiently while you explore your feelings for a man who treated you terribly." She started crying then, tears that might have moved me just hours before. "I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted this to happen." "But you let it happen," I said. "You opened the door, you kept the conversations going. You fed whatever this is until it grew big enough to destroy our marriage. Those were all choices." I walked to our bedroom, my bedroom now, I supposed, and pulled out a suitcase from the closet. When I returned to the living room, she was still sitting there, mascara running down her cheeks. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making it easy for you," I replied, setting the suitcase at her feet. "You want to go? Go. Tonight. Don't drag this out." She stared at the suitcase as if it were a snake. She was gone by morning, leaving behind a closet full of clothes and a note that tried to explain the unexplainable. I burned the note without reading past the first line. Whatever justifications she'd written, whatever attempts at making herself feel better about her choice, I didn't need to carry them. The first week was the hardest. I'd reach for my phone to text her something funny, only to remember. I'd cook dinner for 2 out of habit, then stare at the extra plate. I'd wake up in the middle of the night reaching for her side of the bed, finding only cold sheets. But I'd been through loss before. My mother's death when I was 23 had taught me that grief is a process, not a destination. You don't get over it, you get through it. And getting through it requires movement, requires purpose, requires refusing to let the pain define you. So I started small. I joined a gym, showing up at 6 every morning before work. The physical exhaustion helped quiet the thoughts that would otherwise spiral. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected, accepting invitations I would have previously declined because she hadn't wanted to go. I discovered I actually enjoyed the trivia nights and weekend hikes I'd been missing. At work, I threw myself into a project I'd been postponing. We were developing a new software system for a major client, and I volunteered to lead the implementation team. My boss, who'd noticed my improved focus and dedication, started including me in higher-level meetings. Within a month, he called me into his office. "I've been impressed with your work lately," he said. "I know things have been difficult personally, but professionally, you're really stepping up. We have a senior management position opening up in our New York office. Are you interested?" New York. A fresh start. Better salary. Complete change of scenery. "Absolutely," I said without hesitation. Meanwhile, through mutual friends who couldn't help gossiping, I heard updates about her new life. She'd moved into his apartment, a cramped one-bedroom in the cheaper part of town. He was between jobs again, shocking absolutely no one, so she was covering most of their expenses. She'd posted photos on social media of them together, captions full of words like "finally" and "meant to be" and "real love." I blocked her on everything. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Her choices were no longer my concern. The New York position came through in week 6. I'd fly out for the final interview, they said, but it was more formality than anything. They wanted me. The salary was nearly double what I was making, and they were offering a relocation package that was generous enough to buy out my half of our house and still have money left over. I hired a lawyer, filed for divorce on grounds of irreconcilable differences, and had her served at her new address. She called immediately, crying, asking if we could talk about it. "There's nothing to talk about," I told her. "You made your choice. I'm making mine." But I thought we'd wait, see how things. How things what? See how things work out with him? See if you want to come back if he disappoints you again. I laughed, a sound without humor. "I'm not your safety net. Sign the papers." The divorce moved quickly since we had no children and she couldn't contest it without looking even worse than she already did. She got the car she'd been driving. I kept my truck. We split the savings account 50-50, which wasn't much since she'd apparently already been lending him money. The house would be sold, and we'd split whatever equity remained after paying off the mortgage. By month 3, I was in New York for my first week of work. The energy of the city matched something inside me that I hadn't known was there, a hunger for more, for better, for different. I found an apartment in Brooklyn with exposed brick and huge windows. I bought new furniture, new clothes, a new version of myself. I started seeing a therapist, not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to understand why I'd missed the signs, why I'd been so comfortable I hadn't noticed my partner drifting away. She helped me see that it wasn't really about me. Some people chase chaos because stability feels boring, chase drama because peace feels empty. Some people don't know how to be happy, they only know how to want. I didn't hear from her directly for months, but the mutual friends kept me updated despite my lack of interest. At first, they reported that she seemed happy, that she and her ex were inseparable, that she was glowing with the validation of being chosen again. But by month 2, the cracks were showing. He'd borrowed $5,000 to invest in a business opportunity that fell through. She was working overtime to cover their rent after he'd been let go from another job, something about his attitude with management. She'd stopped posting photos on social media, and when friends asked how things were going, her responses were vague. By month 3, according to Jessica, a mutual friend who loved drama a bit too much, things had gotten worse. He'd started disappearing for days, claiming he was staying with friends or looking for work in other cities. She suspected he was seeing someone else but couldn't prove it. The apartment they shared was always messy because he didn't contribute to housework. She was essentially supporting him while he contributed nothing. "She looks exhausted," Jessica told me during one of her unwelcome update calls. "She's lost weight, but not in a good way. She asks about you sometimes. You know, wants to know how you're doing. Then she can ask me directly," I said. "Though I won't answer." She says she made a mistake. That's unfortunate for her. You really don't care at all. I thought about that question. Did I care? There was a time when her pain would have been my pain, when I would have moved mountains to fix whatever was hurting her. But that man was gone, transformed by necessity into someone who understood that you can't light yourself on fire to keep others warm. I care in the way you care about any human being who's suffering, I finally answered. I hope she finds her way to a better situation. But that's where my concern ends. Her choices led her there. Her choices need to lead her out. Jessica sighed dramatically. You've changed. I've grown. There's a difference. In month 4, I got a promotion at work. My boss, impressed with how I'd restructured one of our key accounts, made me a partner in the firm. The financial boost was significant, but more than that, it was validation. I was good at what I did. I was valuable. I was building something meaningful. I'd also started dating casually, nothing serious, just reminding myself what it felt like to connect with someone new. There was Sarah, a lawyer with a quick wit and no patience for games. There was Monica, an artist who taught me about seeing beauty in unexpected places. There was Jennifer, a fellow software developer who spoke my language and made me laugh. I wasn't looking for anything serious, and I was upfront about that. I was enjoying the process of discovering who I was outside of my marriage, outside of being someone's husband. I was learning what I actually liked rather than what we had liked as a couple. Turned out, I loved jazz music, Indian food, and long walks through Central Park at dawn. I got a dog, a rescue named Apollo who'd been through his own trauma and come out the other side. We understood each other, me and that scarred pit bull with trust issues. We went on long runs together, sat on the couch during thunderstorms, both of us learning that good things could be permanent. My apartment became a home. My job became a career. My life became mine. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was making dinner. Unknown number. New York area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Silence, then breathing, then finally, it's me. I recognized her voice immediately, though it sounded thinner than I remembered, stretched tight over something fragile. How did you get this number? I asked, continuing to chop vegetables for my stir-fry. Jessica gave it to me. I needed to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. The divorce was finalized. If there's a legal issue, contact my lawyer. It's not that. She took a shaky breath. I just needed to hear your voice. To tell you that I'm sorry. That I understand now what I threw away. I set down my knife carefully. Apollo looked up from his bed in the corner, sensing my tension. You're calling me for closure, I said. It wasn't a question. I'm calling because I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I can't figure out how to live with that. He left me, took the last of my savings and left with some woman he met online. I have nothing. I'm staying with my mother, working 2 jobs to pay off the credit card debt he racked up in my name. I lost everything. No, I corrected her gently. You didn't lose everything. You traded it. There's a difference. Please, she whispered. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or your help, but I don't know what else to do. I'm drowning. I walked to my window, looking out at the Brooklyn skyline. A year ago, I would have dropped everything to rescue her. 6 months ago, I might have felt satisfaction at her suffering. Now, I felt something closer to pity tinged with exhaustion. I'm sorry you're going through that, I said, meaning it. But I'm not the person you call anymore. I'm not your emergency contact, your safety net, or your friend. I'm someone you used to be married to who's moved on with his life. Have you really moved on? Or are you just pretending? The question was meant to dig, to find the wound and press on it. Maybe once it would have worked. I've really moved on. I have a life here that I love. A career that's thriving. Friends, hobbies, plans. I'm happy. Genuinely happy. And that happiness doesn't have room for your chaos anymore. She showed up at my office 3 weeks later. Security called up to ask if I'd see a woman who claimed to be my ex-wife, and against my better judgment, I said yes. Curiosity, maybe, or a desire for final closure. Or perhaps I needed to see with my own eyes that the life I'd imagined her living was real. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner, older, worn down by months of stress and poor decisions. Her clothes were cheaper than what she used to wear, her hair less carefully styled. But it was her eyes that struck me most, hollow, haunted, desperate. We sat in the conference room with glass walls, visible to the entire office. I didn't offer privacy because I didn't trust myself or her enough for that. "Thank you for seeing me," she began. "You have 10 minutes. I have a meeting." She flinched at my coldness but pushed forward. "I came to apologize in person. To tell you that you were right about everything. He hasn't changed. He never will change. And I was stupid and blind and so wrong." "Okay. Apology noted. Is that all you're going to say?" I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "What do you want me to say? That I forgive you. Fine. I forgive you. That I understand. I don't. That I want to help you pick up the pieces. I don't. That I still love you. I don't." Tears started streaming down her face, the kind of crying that comes from a place beyond simple sadness, from regret so deep it's become a physical ache. "I see you," she said through her tears. "I see what you've become, this successful, confident, happy person. I see you've moved on completely. And I realize I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me for a fantasy. For nostalgia. For stupidity." "Yes," I agreed simply. "You did. And you really don't feel anything for me anymore." I thought about it honestly. I feel sorry for you. I feel grateful that you showed me who you were before we had children or bought a bigger house or entangled our lives more completely. I feel relief, actually. Because I'm free now to find someone who chooses me every day, not just when the exciting option disappoints them. She sobbed harder. "I know I don't deserve another chance. But could you at least help me figure out how to get back on my feet? Just advice. Maybe help with my resume? Something." And there it was. The real reason for her visit. Not closure, not apology, but rescue. One more attempt to make me her solution. "No," I said, and smiled, not cruelly, but with genuine peace. "You need to save yourself this time. That's the only way you'll learn that actions have consequences, that people aren't interchangeable, that stability and love and commitment are precious things you can't just discard and expect to reclaim. So you're just going to watch me struggle?" "I'm not going to watch you at all. After you walk out of here, I'm going back to my life, which has nothing to do with you. You'll fade into my past, a lesson learned, a chapter closed." My smile widened because I meant every word, because the peace I felt was real and hard-earned, because I finally understood what it meant to value myself enough to walk away from people who didn't value me. Her tears came faster, mixing with mascara, leaving tracks down her face. They weren't tears of sadness, though that was there too. They were tears of understanding, of finally comprehending what she'd lost when she'd had it and only recognizing its worth now that it was gone forever. "I hope you find happiness," I said, standing. "Genuine happiness. The kind that comes from within rather than from another person's validation. I hope you learn to be enough for yourself. But I can't help you get there." I walked her to the elevator, watched her step inside, saw her reflection in the chrome doors as they closed, broken, crying, alone. And I felt nothing but that same peaceful smile. My colleague Mark approached as I returned to my desk. "Ex-wife?" "Yeah." "Looked rough." "She made her choices." "And you're really okay?" I thought about my apartment waiting for me, Apollo who'd be excited to see me, the date I had planned for Friday with someone who made me laugh, the promotion I was considering, the life I'd built from the rubble of my marriage. "I'm better than okay," I said, and meant it. "I'm free." That night, I deleted her number from my phone, the last remaining connection. I didn't do it in anger or spite, but in completion. She was my past. Everything ahead was my future, unwritten and full of possibility, with room for someone who would appreciate what I offered, who would choose me not just once but every day, who would understand that love is a verb, not a feeling. My smile, when it came, was genuine and earned. Her tears were her own to carry. And finally, completely, I was at peace.